Hey everyone, yes, and welcome back. It is an important week this week. This is a massive, well, not so much the weekend coming up. It's the Derby della Madonnina, one of the biggest games of the year in the Milan calendar. If not, I consider it the biggest game for Milan in any season, really, because it's it's a massive depiction of motivation, how the season's going. Obviously, in recent years, well, let's say recently this year and previous year, both Milan clubs have escalated their performances to around the top of Serie A. Obviously, first and second place last season. They're battling for that position once again this season. And this derby this weekend is just massive. It's such a big game, and I know we can sort of underplay it. A lot of fans can underplay this game, going, what if we draw this game or if we lose this game, not all is lost. Especially when you consider things like like the primary target this season was for a top four finish. I think right off the bat, I just want to talk about really the motivation and the impact of the result of this fixture, for me at least, in my opinion. And I think it's major, because if you look at all three potential results, if we look at a draw, for example, it doesn't really do anything for us. It lets the chasing pack once again catch up on us because this point's dropped. It doesn't really allow us to make any ground on Inter Milan, sort of on a title hunting perspective, and it just it just doesn't do anything for either side. And maybe for Inter Milan, it's probably actually a better result because once again they're not really dropping major points, and they can probably write this one off as if we don't lose the game, that's fine. If we win this game, I'll go on about the winning perspective first, and this is all hypotheticals, it's all ifs and buts, but there can be implications from either result, and I do kind of see this from a mental capacity. If we win this game, of course, it's huge. It's fantastic. We always want to win a derby, but if we do want to have a goal to win the league, we have to win this game. There's no way around it. That's the only result we need to get, and we'll come on to potential ways that can happen in a bit. Maybe we'll look at the starting lineups. But from a mental capacity, I think that will just be like a kickstart. It will be a nice springboard to go into what should be an easy run of fixtures against Sampdoria, Salernitano, Udinese, games where we should be picking up 3 points. At least for me, it'll be a massive mental springboard for us to sort of bounce off a nice derby win and go into those games and not having to rely on bounce back ability. A loss though, let alone the fact that it probably, I would say, rolls us out of the title, definitely. It then draws us majorly into the sort of the top four race, especially with Juventus signing Vlahovic, Zakaria, fantastic signings. They're right up, sort of sniffing for that position now. Atalanta, Napoli, it's going to be one of those sides, obviously. One of those top four sides is going to miss out. And I just pray, even if we lose this fixture, that we don't drop off. We have the mental capacity to bounce back. We've shown it in the past, but maybe our luck might just run out this season, and I'd rather not run that risk and obviously win the derby and not have to worry about that scenario. And it can be that massive. We've seen it before in the past where a derby fixture can shape your season, can mentally destroy you, can mentally bring you up. So, I don't think we should consider this as just another 3 points and just another derby. Of course, for me, the primary objective has always been top four. I'd love to see us go on a title race, and that will depend on the result. So yeah, let's really. I mean, we've spoken about the competition just briefly on the January market. I spoke about it last week when I did the video. Not a great one, but we have to be realistic about what happened, what we're currently going through as a club right now. Financially, I didn't expect any additions. Maybe at best one position, that was the centre back position. We didn't reinforce that. We have to get on with it. I do think the players that we have at this club are competitive enough. They are good enough, especially when we are out of Europe. The squad numerically is quite large, and we have to just hope that there is enough there to get us through the season. Hopefully the injuries stay down. I do think there is enough there, certainly for a top four race. So it's for a top four finish, not for a top four race. We're in the race for a finish, and obviously, hopefully, add to this squad in the summer with players like Renato Sanchez, Botman, maybe Belotti in the free transfer, or any other additions that we might consider. So yeah, an underwhelming January market. It's an important derby. We're 4 points off Inter Milan. They have a game in hand. We are, I believe, 7 points off Juventus. Ahead of Juventus. We are 6 points ahead of Atalanta in the fourth place position when they've got a game in hand though. And obviously we're level with points with Napoli. So it's such a clustered top four race right now. Now let's look at the game, and I really wanted to sort of delve into the players that could be featuring, who's available, who's out of it for both sides, and really just see if I can, maybe predict the starting lineups and see ways that the games can be won or lost. We picked this up on the podcast, but I want to dive into it a bit more, give me a chance to speak about my opinions and my thoughts on about it all. So firstly, for Milan, obviously we know we're out without Fikayo Tomori in this fixture, without Simon Kjaer, even though Tomori's recovery is going ahead of schedule. Maybe he should be back, maybe, I don't know, the game afterwards or maybe the game after that. I don't think it would be wise to rush him back for this fixture. I certainly will not expect him to be back for this fixture. Kaya's out for the season, we know that. But other than that, we welcome back Kessie, who obviously had a good game prior to leaving us for the African Cup of Nations. Great game against Empoli, so hopefully his form is just as good as that fixture. I know I've been issues with him coming back to training quite late, so I'm hoping that isn't to do with... Well, hopefully that won't sort of prevent him being at 100%. And obviously Ibrahimovic came off injured against Juventus. So yeah, that was mainly due to the pitch conditions, but I'm hoping that he's at... should be 100% at that point, but we'll go on to the fact if he should be starting or not. If we start to look into Milan's squad, the major players out really are, one is new signing Robin Gosens, and the other one is Correa, who obviously signed from Lazio last season, in the summer even, and obviously had a good game against us with Lazio, so we can't forget about that. But other than that, they should be fine when it comes to players, and we should be seeing their strongest side that they can field. Now let's get into predicted lineups. I'm going to quickly get the Inter Milan predicted lineups, how I see it going. This should be a shoo-in and a no-brainer anyway. Like I said, they have their full-strength side. There's not really any sort of, great duels for a certain position, maybe at the right wing-back spot. But the way I see things going down is Handanovic in goal. Obviously, they have the back three of Milan Skriniar, they have De Vrij and Bastoni, so they're pretty solid, and they should do, they should be there again, which is obviously not a great thing for us. At right wing back, I do expect Darmian to be starting, and at left wing back position, it should be Ivan Perisic should be starting as well. In the centre midfield position, you have Brozovic as a sort of the defensive midfielder, and Hakan Çalhanoğlu, we all remember him. And Nicola Barella is the sort of box-to-box options. And up front there is Edin Dzeko and Lautaro Martinez. So relatively a strong side for Inter Milan. I believe this was the same side that started against Atalanta in the previous Serie A fixture, or maybe it was one before that. So yeah, there's not really much surprises when it comes to this Inter Milan setup. We spoke about this once again on the podcast. I don't think there is a lot in transitional open play to be worried about, especially when it comes to the counter-attack. Obviously, they are going to pump a lot of crosses in, and we'll come on to why they might be doing that when we start looking at the Milan defence. They're a massive set-piece threat when it comes to corners, when it comes to free kicks. These are the things we should be worrying about. When we talk about those three centre-backs, we talk about Edin Dzeko being great in the air. Martinez is surprisingly quite good in the air. The delivery of players like Çalhanoğlu is great. As much as we sort of hate someone like him, and we found him quite inconsistent for Milan, we have to worry about how good he can be from those set-piece positions, and he can really just be launching that ball into maybe four or five options who are great in the air. And obviously, we'll come on to the players that we have that may not be having that strength. So Inter Milan, yeah, we know what we got here. We got a very strong side, and we have to take this game as seriously as possible. We know this is a massive fixture, and we'll come on to the Milan side and how I see things shaping up for us. Okay, so Milan. I see it, obviously, once again, the 4-2-3-1 formation, which is our sort of go-to. I do believe what I'm reading into the rumours here, that Kessie should be starting at the sort of the attacking midfield position. Although, when we look at formations on paper, and I've mentioned this many times, that we can't take it so literal. Stefano Pioli loves to adapt the very sort of, what you see on paper is not exactly what you get. Obviously, as the forwards that bomb up and down, the centre midfielders and the attacking midfielder positions, they'll just sort of like rotate in their position. The DMs sort of drop into the centre backs, all that variation there. So don't take it quite literally if you see Kessie at the attacking midfield, but then there will obviously be chops and changes with his positional play throughout the game. No surprises when it comes to goalkeeper. Mike Mignon is there. Obviously, he didn't make the derby last time round. He was injured with that arm injury, that hand injury. Mike Mignon back for this fixture. Davide Calabria as well at right back. Teo Hernandez, he didn't play the first game. We can't forget Ballatore giving away that penalty. The second penalty in the first game this season against Inter Milan. And at centre-back positions, we should be seeing Alessio Romagnoli and Pierre Kalulu taking up the two options there. Now, here is potentially where the variation comes into play. When it comes to the midfielders, when it comes to the attackers, we have options to consider. And probably a lot more than I would say an Inter Milan do in this fixture. And I think we'll come on to depth and players we can call upon off the bench. But it's important to get whoever's starting this game right, because that can win or lose you the fixture. You don't have to rely upon throwing all 5 subs on to be like the game changer, but obviously the team that you line up should be keeping yourselves in it. I do think that we should be starting Kessie, Bennacer and Tonali, and how that should probably look is Tonali and Bennacer are the deeper options, and Kessie gives them that sort of freedom of a box-to-box role. He did really well with that in the Empoli fixture. He does use the strength really well, and I think he should be taking up like the sort of the cam position, depending he is 100% fit for it. I've spoken about him many times that Brahim Diaz's form has not been good. I don't think this is a way to punish him, but I think this is a way to just basically say this is such a huge fixture. We have to rely upon someone who's did previously quite well in it, and also give us some that sort of like midfield assurances. Inter Milan's, the 3-5-2 that they have, they dominate possession when it comes to midfield play, so that can equally win and lose us this fixture. I'd rather have one more centre midfielder in and around to help us out, recover the ball, recycle possession, and make more moves go forward. Because I think we'd be stupid to think we're going to come out of this game and go for it gun ho. It's just not going to happen, and that's where game management comes into it. Obviously, Rafael Leao has to be starting at the left winger position. The right winger option, I'm hearing rumours that Rebic can be considered to be playing at right wing. Obviously, we still have Salamakers, we still have Junior Macias, we still have Samuel Castillo. Less we talk about him, the better. And at front, we have options, which is Giroud and Ibra. I do believe that Giroud probably should be starting this game because, Ibra is probably not 100% fit. We can question about his clinical finishing, Giroud, but I do feel like this could be a game where he could step up. We could obviously play Rebic as a sort of like a false nine as well, so these massive things to consider, but I do think I would love to see us play Kessie, Bennacer, Tonali in centre midfielder, Leao on the left. If we can find a way to play Rebic on the right, fantastic. But probably I don't think that's going to be the scenario here. I do feel like Pioli might play it safe and play someone like Salamakers, play someone like Macias on the right position, and play someone like Giroud up top. I do feel like the dark horse selection would be picking Rebic for the right winger or picking Rebic for the false nine. When you really consider that he is great coming off the bench with his aggression. I want Rebic to start as much as possible, but we are seeing, his best position for me is at left winger, and obviously Rafael Leao is going through an amazing run of form right now. So now let's quickly go through the key battles, how I see this game being won and lost. Firstly, for me, on the attacking end, we talk about our left side all the time. Teo Hernandez, finally there for the derby. He wasn't there back in October, I think, when we played in Milan. He's there now. That's massive to rely upon when we talk about the transitional play, the counter attacks that we can generate. I don't think we're going to get many opportunities where he's completely bombarding himself down that flank. But when he does, it's great to have that option to that he can. Rafael Leao, his form this season has been fantastic. If those two can really click, if they can really gel, and if they can really take their chances, good crossing, good finishing. Leao, he was fantastic in the first half of the derby last time round. If one of these shots can just go in, it can do us a world of good. And I think it's going to be a massive game for them on the left side because they have to do what they can to torment, Darmian and Skriniar, to really put them under the cosh of the pressure with their speed, with their, with their tenacity, with their fluidity, the way they can just change things up, the way they can just take on a man. They really need to take it towards these players. Where the game can be lost, it's not really sort of rocket science here. We have two centre-backs who are our third and probably our fourth choice options, and they have someone like Edin Dzeko and Lautaro Martinez. I love Kalulu. I love what Romagnoli can do, but they need to have 10 out of 10 performances, both of them. If one of them is, even if one of them is playing bad, massive warning signs, because they will pick on these players. I've talking about their set piece sort of strengths in the Milan, and I do feel like they will look at their centre backs. They'll look at their aerial capabilities. They will look at the distribution of Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and they'll start pinpointing areas where like Milan just aren't strong in the air. And that's also probably another reason why I think Diaz shouldn't be starting this game, because if we want an extra person, not just Kessie to be there as a body in midfield, we need a bit of muscle, from set pieces. We need a bit more physicality, a bit more, aerial approach. I do feel like that's another reason why we should maybe play it safe and start Kessie in this fixture. But I do think like defensively, I'm not as worried as say like, when we played against like Inter's team from last season. Lukaku and Hakimi were there, and you really talk about their counter-attacks and isolating players like Romagnoli, picking apart Theo Hernandez's side when he sort of commits himself going forward. I'm a little bit less worried when it comes to open play, but I do feel like they have to have 10 out of 10 performances. And other than that, it's quite an easy one to pick as well, which is the battle between what we should be seeing is Sandro Tonali versus Barella, which obviously two Italians going at it. Fantastic talents, very young. Barella's, obviously a full-fledged Italian international. Tonali should be starting, in my opinion, for Italy. So I'm curious to see what a great battle we have there. I'm not a fan of Barella's sort of theatrics when it comes to a lot of diving that he likes to be doing. So I'd love to see Tonali just picking him up by his shirt and telling him to shut up. That would be a dream for me. But yeah, I think that's really where we could be seeing the games won and lost in these sort of key battles. And I spoke about the bench. I'm talking about how there's options for us in attack. Look who we have to call upon on the bench. If we go for the formation that I said we probably should be starting, how I feel we should be starting, if we can call upon players like Brahim Diaz, Ante Rebic, Ibrahimovic, Junior Messias, even it depends on who's playing, Florenzi. These are good attacking options to bring off the bench, and if it's maybe 0-0, if it's maybe 1-1, or, it's still a lot to play for, and we just want to have that little something that's going to change things up. And the game runs on a little bit, and there's some tired legs. Obviously, the San Siro pitch probably isn't perfect as well, which might affect on players' fitnesses and their fatigue. I'm interested to see how we use our substitutions. We have 5 substitutions to use, and I feel like when it comes to the attack, we have a lot more to throw on. Yes, Inter Milan have players like they brought in Saicedo, they have Alexis Sanchez, but really in centre midfield, Vecino, Gagliardini, there's not much, Arturo Vidal, there's not much I'm really worried about. Maybe the winger positions, DiMarco, if Dumfries comes off the bench, there's a little bit of worry there for their speed. But really, I think we have those players there to call upon off the bench that can change the game if they take that moment. So I do feel like there is something that can be there when it comes to players coming off the bench and potentially win us the game. You never know. So that's it pretty much for today, guys. Want to talk about this fixture because it's so huge. It is such a big game, and I want to be, doing a video next week where I'm talking about us getting that win because, it's a massive thing. I'm hoping to watch it down in Milan Club London. I'm hoping, it's going to be a massive, great atmosphere. I'm hoping I go down this time and I see us win because the last time it was for the Liverpool 2-1 loss at home, the last game at the Champions League group stage. So, fingers crossed. We need to get this win, guys. So we need to get behind the team despite not the best January market. We need to just be convinced that there is enough there to get these 3 points and get us back into the race and keep us glued onto a top 4 finish. So until next time, guys, Forza Milan.